The modern Scottish rite of the mother jurisdiction has found the keys to esoteric knowledge, and therefore it is the direct, true descendant and the survivor of the ancient mysteries.
Je pense que ce qui fait peur, c'est le secret en franc-maçonnerie. Or, il n'y a pas de secret.
The secret handshake, what's that like?
So the secret handshake is not a secret handshake. It's a token that we use in our ceremonies. If you want to have a look at it, look on Google. It's I think The Guardian have printed it. You know,
can you show us?
These secret things from our secret society are just not terribly secret.
But can you show us? Are you allowed to show us if it's not secret?
I'm not going to do that, and the reason I'm not going to do that is because I promised that I wouldn't. And part of something about being a person with integrity is that you keep your promises.
Ça va bien prendre encore 2 semaines.
Ah, vraiment?
Ouais.
Vraiment?
Ouais.
Et si jamais je vous serrais la main comme ça? Ouais.
Ah, j'avais pas compris que t'en étais un.
La poignée de main maçonnique dite secrète n'est ici qu'une boutade, l'arbre cachant l'obscure forêt hermétique que représentent les loges. Quels médias iraient aujourd'hui questionner les grands maîtres sur les cultes à mystères antiques, leurs pratiques initiatiques et leurs iniques dérives? Les religions antiques à mystères sont la quintessence du secret. Cette religion ésotérique, cachée et réservée à un petit nombre, que certains maçons des hauts grades relient directement à la franc-maçonnerie moderne. Voici un document rare montrant le 33e degré Henry Clausen affirmer face caméra que le rite maçonnique écossais est la continuité directe des antiques cultes à mystère, tout en nous confirmant, chose extrêmement rare de la part d'un franc-maçon, que ces cultes à mystère se sont vautrés dans la sorcellerie et les pratiques orgiaques.
The modern Scottish rite of the mother jurisdiction has found the keys to esoteric knowledge, and therefore it is the direct, true descendant and the survivor of the ancient mysteries. We pursue, preserve, and teach the ancient wisdom and esoteric knowledge. The Scottish rite of the mother jurisdiction, on the other hand, retained, reinforced, and expanded both goals, societal and spiritual. But we also search for an ultimate mystic union with the deity, and for that purpose we reveal and apply in our degrees from the 4th to the 33rd the ancient wisdom, esoteric knowledge that comes to us over long, drifting centuries. The powers, forces, and energies can be discovered if we search deeply enough. They were to be found in all parts of the world, such as the mysteries of Isis and Osiris in Egypt, the Mithraic mysteries of the Persians, the Orphic and Bacchic and later Eleusinian mysteries of Greece, the mysteries of Samothrace and Chaldea, the mysteries of India, the Druidical mysteries, the Gothic and Scandinavian mysteries, and others. The ancient mysteries later fell into a perverted decline and were replaced with the ceremonial sorcery, incantations in lieu of divine magic. Also were filled with indescribable practices in the orgies of Bacchus.
J'affirme qu'aujourd'hui, bon nombre de frères de loge se vautrent également dans les pires pratiques occultes, notamment sorcellerie, pédosatanisme et sacrifice de sang. En interne, les grands maîtres connaissent pertinemment l'existence de ces arrière-loges aux infâmes pratiques initiatiques. Embourbés dans le culte du secret, il est devenu difficile, voire impossible pour la secte maçonnique de nettoyer la crasse des caves ayant formé le monstrueux égrégore.
spoken about the involvement of the Masonic Lodge in, or some members of the Masonic Lodge involved in, or being allegations towards them of being perpetrators of ritual abuse. Can you talk about how you first received this information?
Well, early on in my research, when people were coming forward with accounts, some accounts appeared about deviant Freemasons. That is to say, some of the people making allegations were indicating that their fathers had been Freemasons, and that somehow their alleged abuse they thought was connected with the lodge or Freemasons. Occasionally, abuse accounts, if they were true, and I can't say that they were definitively, but if they were true, seemed to have occurred inside Masonic lodges and so on. I was really quite perplexed by the appearance of Freemasonry in a fairly significant number of accounts. That is to say, I was not getting any allegations about other kind of philanthropic or civic groups. I was not getting accounts about Kiwanis or Lions Club or Knights of Columbus or Rotarians or whatnot. It was only deviant allegations about deviants involving Freemasons, sometimes in Masonic lodges. And my sense all along is that even if some of these allegations are true, ordinary Masons would be appalled at the material that I was hearing. But nonetheless, I was faced with a dilemma of trying to make sense out of what I was hearing. So I undertook an investigation of Freemasonry. I had already published an encyclopedia about Freemasonry several years earlier in the second edition of the Canadian Encyclopedia. So I had some background. And what I found is that related to Freemasonry are countless splinter groups of these splinter groups involve usually just men. Sometimes women get involved in traditions involving high ceremonialism, elaborate rituals, and so on. So, for example, if one goes back a couple of generations, one can even find Masonic connections to a group like the Solar Temple. These are people who I often call them ritual junkies. They love the pomp and ceremonialism that they've seen in Freemasonry, but they want to go further with it. Freemasonry does not have a developed sense of a demonic figure in it. That is to say, there aren't these kind of rigid satanic versus God images that appear in Christianity. What I did find, however, was some mentions of Lucifer, but more importantly, a sense in some of the upper-level rituals that God was a threefold character: Jah, Bulah, Jah possibly referring to Yahweh, Bull referring to Baal, and so on. The Baal reference is a reference to pagan gods in the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament gods who required child sacrifice. So, ordinary Masons would talk about the god Jah, Bulah, and not really think too much about what they were saying, but it was plausible to me that Masonic deviants, these people I call ritual junkies, might see that in this God figure you combine both good and evil. You combine a higher God with a God who required child sacrifice. And so as part of my attempts to come up with a plausibility structure for why deviant Freemasons may be involved in these kind of allegations, I found a point of entry, you might say, in theology that would allow deviant practitioners to develop abusive rituals in the context of what they thought could be worship to a higher God.
Now, the people making allegations against certain of these deviant Freemasons, do you have a sense of what positions they held within the Masonic Lodge organization, whether they were lower ranking or higher ranking Masons?
don't know for sure. I know that some of the people against whom allegations had been made, never proven, seem to be fairly high-ranking members. I also know that some ordinary members hear these allegations and they're in disbelief. These Masons see these allegations as being just part of a long tradition of persecution against Freemasonry because of secrecy and so on. Well, that's certainly not my intent. I have no axe to grind with Freemasonry. And once I got challenged on the Masonic issues, I started finding out that there are people right around North America who have also made allegations that they have been richly abused by Freemasons. There are a number of organizations based in the States that specifically insist that deviant Freemasons had abused them. Indeed, in Canada, there's one organization whose leader is absolutely convinced that she's the survivor of deviant Masonic abuse. So when I was able to see that the accounts that I was getting were part of a large context, a large North American context, it became even more intriguing to me about the kind of specific allegations I had been receiving.
Now, as you said, the Masonic Lodge has had a long history of being persecuted. Is there any indication that the allegations made against them may be part of some kind of propaganda campaign against the Masonic Lodge?
I'm very wary of information, so-called information, that comes out of conservative Christian contexts. That is to say, a number of conservative Christians see Freemasonry as being involved in forms of the occult and devil worship. So organizations that are related to these conservative groups and the information they put out are highly suspect. So I do my best to stay away from that kind of information. I don't get the sense, though, from most of my informants that they have these kind of axes to grind about Freemasonry. I mean, they don't seem to be involved in these conservative Christian contexts. Many of them, I think most of them, have no interpretive context to place their own memories about the Freemasons. For them, they feel extremely isolated with these kind of accounts. They have no sense that other people in different parts of North America have made similar kinds of allegations. So I cannot place most of the accounts that I've received in a context of some sort of vengeance against the Masons.
Do you feel that the people you come in contact with making allegations have any kind of knowledge of what Freemasonry is about?
I certainly don't get that sense from people. Again, these are for the most part women, and as you know, women are excluded from Masonic ritual and practice. So it wouldn't be impossible for them to gain internal knowledge about Masonic rituals, but it takes some work. You have to go out and actively seek the information. So I just don't get any sense that these people have a vendetta, or at least most of the people have any kind of vendetta against Freemasonry.
Now, within the accounts coming from the survivors, do you get the sense that what they're telling you is in terms of the ritual specifically Masonic? Are there specific Masonic elements to the rituals themselves that come forth?
Some of the content of the rituals seems to take place in Masonic lodges. So many people talk about altars. Some people talk about black and white floors. Some people talk about pillars in the ceremonial area, and so on. You know, I've had some people who have these memories and try to get a context for them, and because their fathers were Masons, will actually try to get into Masonic lodges so they can look at them and see if the lodges have any semblance or similarity to what they're recalling. Again, ordinary Masons would be appalled at these kinds of things. I have absolutely no indication that any ordinary Masonic rituals involve anything even close to child abuse. it's in the deviance inside Freemasonry, and possibly some of these splinter groups that hold the most concern for me. It's entirely plausible for me to imagine, for example, the deviant Freemasons would pull some material from some of the extremist writings of Aleister Crowley, or take some of Crowley's statements about children and sex literally, or some of Crowley's statements about child sacrifice or human sacrifice, and take them literally and build rituals around them. The Crowleyites insist that Crowley was talking metaphorically, but if it's written down, any tradition is going to have fundamentalists and literalists, people who read it and think it's true and then act upon it. And I have some friends, not close friends, who are Masons, and this stuff just seems to be wholly outside of their experience. But I've got repeated accounts, and there are accounts similar to the ones that I've gotten right across North America.